Hey there, you looking kinda cute. Please consider subscribing and check out our Patreon for more. Enjoy the video. It was February, and I had worked hard to make her birthday special the month before. I thought that maybe she would return the favor and plan something for Valentine's Day that we would both enjoy. I can't help it. I'm one of those women who loves to be treated well. We had talked about going on a trip at the end of the month, but when it came and went and there was no trip, you guessed it, I started to get sad and cranky, just like she says I do when I don't get to go out every 2 weeks or so. Jan called me at work to tell me that she had plans for the weekend and that we would be partly on a time schedule. She wanted me to make sure I was off all weekend. Well, that wasn't much of a problem, so by the time I got home on Friday afternoon, I was very happy. Part of the excitement every weekend was that I didn't know what was going to happen, and the other part was that I was going out on the town. After dinner that night, she told me she had run my bath. This wasn't totally out of the ordinary, and when she does this, it's usually her way of telling me to make sure I've shaved. This was a little different because she had candles all along the tub and shelves to light up the bathroom. The tub was full and the room smelled very good. Well, this was a really nice treat. After the bath, all I wanted to do was curl up in a robe by the fire and go to sleep. It was so relaxing. And surprisingly, that's exactly what we did. She had a bottle of wine and some light snacks for us to eat while we watched the fire, talked, and enjoyed each other's company. She told me the night before that the things she had planned for us to do together as our Valentine's gift to each other would happen on Saturday. So, when we got up, she made sure I dressed the way she wanted. I wore brown leather pants, a black turtleneck, and a very cute animal print scarf around my neck, black granny boots with high heels, and, of course, all the right jewelry. She knew I was hers and that I would do whatever she wanted. We went to a salon first. She said that through her hairdresser, she had found someone who could take care of all of Lacey's salon needs. Lacey being my crossdresser name, part of the reason my heart was beating fast was because I was excited to be treated to all of this. And part of it was because I was scared. As we walked into the salon, a woman named Valerie came up to us and said her name. She said she was sorry for being late to her last appointment and that we could wait. She used our names, so I knew she knew we were coming. Jan said that she had tried to make it so that we were the only ones there. I told her it was fine and that it seemed like we had just come in for an appointment like any other women. Time went by quickly. And soon Val, as she liked to be called, led us back to a nail salon. I'm sure I looked surprised, but we had talked about this a lot. I guess we were doing it anyway, so here we go. She gave each of us a full set of nails as we talked, and I'll admit that I wasn't sure she knew who she was giving nails to. It was a lot of fun to just be one of the girls. They looked and felt much better than the ones I was putting on myself at home every time we went out. They were perfect and, of course, very red. Val then led us to a hair station where she had me lie down and took off all the makeup I had just spent an hour putting on. But she told me she would show me how to use it better. I felt a little awkward when she sat me up and put me in front of her and a mirror with no makeup on. But as she put on the makeup, she showed me how to use different colors to bring out certain features. She made me feel good about what we were doing, and I couldn't believe how different and pretty she could make me in just a few minutes. I was much prettier than most of the girls who come in regularly. We thanked her and left the salon, but I really wish I could have stayed there all day because it was so great. After we left, Jan told me she was so happy and surprised by what had happened. She said that we should go out to eat and that if we ran into anyone, we should just let her do all the talking and everything would be fine. We did see someone we knew at lunch, but they didn't even notice because she told them I was her friend from Dallas. She said we had a few hours after lunch, so we went to a small clothing store and looked at clothes and even tried on a few. The woman at the shop was very helpful, and she even said that some of the things we tried on looked great. After we left the store, we drove to the Ambassador Hotel. I'm sure my eyes lit up and I said, "But we didn't bring any extra clothes." She laughed at me and said, "Silly, we're not checking in." Still, when we walked in, she said we were a little early, so she suggested we get a drink at the bar. Since we were at a motel and she said it was early, I couldn't think of what we could do next. We did sit in the bar and have a drink, and yes, I tried everything I knew to get her to tell me what was going to happen next. But all she would say was that I might need the drink for courage. Well, 7 o'clock came and went, and she said, "Okay, it's time." I thought we were leaving, but as she walked toward the elevator, my heart beat even faster, and I still had no idea where we were going. On the 4th floor, when we got off the elevator, there was a sign pointing left down the hall. The shocking part was what was written on the sign: Hollywood Portraits, room 401. She looked at me and said, "You asked for this and there's no going back." She said, "They know we're coming and that ours was the last appointment." She said she made all the special plans and to just have fun because this will be a lot of fun. I wasn't sure if I could do this because it seemed a little too risky, but what the heck? This was probably my only chance, so I decided to go for it. There were 2 people in the room, a person who did makeup and the person who took pictures. Well, I thought my makeup was perfect, but I was told that this would be glamour-style makeup, which meant it would be a little more dramatic than what you would wear every day. It was great to get 2 new looks in one day. After she was done, I was surprised at how bold it was, but she said it had to be that way for the pictures to really look glamorous. My hair was also teased and sprayed heavily, and it looked very good. She and Jan took over and had me try on lace bodysuits and satin teddy bears, among other things. The pictures took about 2 hours to take. Of course, everyone helped choose the best ones. I couldn't believe how many times the people who took my pictures told me how pretty I looked. I thought it was just part of the deal and that they probably said that to all the women. Before we left, we made plans for when and where the photos would be sent. Just before we left, the photographer told me that he knew people who were always looking for someone like me to model clothes in trans magazines and catalogs. He asked if he could show them some evidence. Well, I have to say I was flattered, and it made me feel even more beautiful, but I knew we couldn't do that. But before I answered him, I thought, oh, this is just something Jan did, and he's just going along with it to make it fun. This guy couldn't know people like that, let alone think I was pretty enough to be in catalogs and magazines. So even though it was done to make me feel good, I'll go along with it. I said yes. That would be great. As we left the room and headed for the elevator, John looked at me and said, "I can't believe you said yes to him showing your photos. Oh, hell, you're kidding, right? You made him say all that, right?" "Well, you guessed it. She said she had nothing to do with it." We both laughed, looked at each other. We decided to stop and have a few drinks in the lounge before going home. With all my makeup and hair out, I was really turning heads. We had a great time just talking and listening to music while sitting together. When Jan finally got to the truck, I showed her how much I loved my Valentine. She told me that the night was still going on. When we got home, we had both bought gifts for each other from Victoria's Secrets. I'm not sure who was more surprised. We didn't have to wait long before we were showing each other all the pretty clothes. I got her a red satin bustier with straps. There was also a red dress and boa high heels that went together. She was beautiful. She chose leopard print satin pajamas. After talking to each other, we went home and put on some romantic movie. As we watched the movie, we drank wine. It was a great way to end a perfect day. Fast forward a couple of weeks. When I got home one night, Jan said, "You won't believe the phone call we got today." I didn't know who it was. She told me that a man called and said he was a photographer and had seen the proofs of Lacey. He wanted to know if Lacey was interested in being in a catalog layout. I thought she was making fun of me, but I could tell right away that she wasn't kidding. She told me that he does the photos and catalogs for Dream Dresser we had bought before. This was just too crazy, and after that we didn't talk much about it until we went to bed. Most of the time we talked best in bed. Jan brought it up by asking, "So, what do you think about the catalog deal?" "What are you really thinking about it?" I asked. She said, "Why not? This could be very exciting." Then she said, I told him we were interested enough that he told most of the details. We could both go. It would be in Los Angeles the first week of June and take 3 days. He also said that we would be paid well for the trip. We decided that the deal was too good to turn down. I mean, we'd get paid to go to LA for almost a week, and Lacey would get the full makeover treatment. Just thinking about all the clothes we could wear made me say, let's do it. We had almost 3 months until the trip, so Jan suggested that we go on a diet through the company where she works as a consultant. She said this was a good reason to stick to a strict diet, and she would take care of all the needs for the diet. Everything was taken care of by her. She even made a plan for us to work out. The 2 months went by quickly, and I was very proud of us. We both did great on the diet, and she stood up. We had shakes for breakfast and lunch, and each night we had a great dinner. We had to take a lot of vitamin supplements because of the diet. She just made sure I took the right pills at the right time, which was great for me. We did a lot of walking and running, and 2 days a week, which I hate. We did aerobics. However, 1 day a week, she let me dress up as Lacey in really nice workout clothes. That was more than enough to keep me going back then. She suggested that we start working on things with Lacey that we had never worked on before, mostly the voice. We both knew that this was an area where I had trouble, but I had trouble working on it for some reason. But I was surprised to learn that since we both wanted the LA thing to go well and we both had a goal, I worked hard to make my voice sound better. After a few weeks, it was a lot easier for me to change my voice to what we had decided was Lacey's best voice. The thing that surprised me was that it became physically easier to change. Now that we were only a week away from our trip, we decided that I really needed to stay as Lacey as much as possible all week to get used to it. I really couldn't believe that I was already used to the voice. Even though walking and sitting were already pretty good, we really worked on those skills. Jan really made me work on things like mannerisms that we hadn't worked on before. We were both really excited about the trip, and it was a great week. Jan told me that our plane tickets had come in the mail. Since the company was paying for the whole trip, they made all the plans with Jan and sent the tickets and hotel reservations to us in the mail. I just looked at the tickets to see what time they were for and how they were set up. I really like a window seat, so I just wanted to see if I got one. Then I realized that these tickets were made out to Jan and Lacey. I screamed. She said, "What is wrong?" I said, "We will never get these changed in time for our flight this weekend." That's when Jan said, she didn't plan on trying, adding, "We had worked really hard for 2 months to make Lacey a really nice lady, and she was totally passable, and now it was time to show her off. What's wrong? We are headed to a photo shoot. What's the big deal in flying as Lacey?" Then I reminded her you have to have photo ID that matches your ticket. She looked surprised, then laughed. Then she told me she wasn't dumb and that she still had connections and that everything was set up. Then she tells me that she knew a woman who owed her a big favor. We would give Lacey a new license with her picture on it. We went to the DPS office that afternoon. When we got there, Jan called someone to let them know we were there. This woman I had never seen before opened the door, even though the store was closed. As soon as she opened the door, she told me I was very pretty. She said that all the paperwork was ready and that we only needed a picture. The whole thing happened in just 5 minutes. She said that we should get the license in 2 days because she would send it in tonight. Jan told me as we were leaving that she had worked this out months ago so she could surprise me with a license I could show if I ever got pulled over while driving. This was a great thing. I don't know how she got this woman to do it, but who cares? Well, the day came when we had to drive to Dallas and fly from there to Los Angeles. Jan had bought me an outfit from Newport News that I thought would be perfect for the flight. It had black pants, a red sweater tied around my neck, and red loafers, which made it both casual and dressy. I was a little nervous about going through airport security, but after a week of extra practice and getting used to being Lacey, it was really easy. It also helped that the voice was so easy to use now. It was fun to fly as Lacey and know that all the clothes I brought were for Lacey. It was like this trip was the first time we went somewhere without any help. Only Jan and Lacey were there. We were told to meet a limo at Gate 34G when we got to LA, which was just too cool. Just like in the movies, we told the driver who we were, he loaded our bags, and we were on our way. The limo had a fully stocked bar, and we didn't want to miss out on what would likely be our only first-class limo ride. We got to our hotel after about 45 minutes. When we got there, we checked in and went to our room. I thought it was time to relax, but she said she had to call Sean, who she had been dealing with. He told us he wanted to know if dinner at 9 o'clock would be okay. Jan said he wanted to have dinner with us so he and the photographers would feel more comfortable around us. We met them at a restaurant where Sean put us in touch with Vicky and Vince, 2 photographers. They said they had been in business together for about 10 years and had been married for about 8 of those years. They were all very nice, and we all got along great. They talked about what would happen over the next few days. They also talked about the photo shoots they had done for this catalog in the past. They all said how great they thought Lacey would be for the catalog. Of course, I was thinking that they probably said that about all the models they had used. The dinner was great, and we all agreed that we should get up early the next day, so we went to bed early. Sean said that if the shoot went well, everyone always had a party on the last day, and he promised us that we wouldn't be going to bed early. Vicky picked us up the next morning and drove us to their studio. They said it would be best to start with photos of us in full clothes and move toward photos of us in undies. It was so fun to have professionals do all of our makeup and hair. After we did the wig shots, we all agreed that Lacey looked great as a blonde. The first 2 days were a lot of fun, but I was really looking forward to the garter belt shots on the 3rd day, which would take up most of the day. Jan and Vicky said we would start without them, but I didn't know what they had in mind. That night, Jan told me she had a surprise for me, and she gave me a very nice red corset. I wore red nylons that went with the corset and were held up by garter straps. She was wearing black leather pants and a black leather halter when I came out of the bathroom. I told her I loved the way the corset fit. She said, "It's about time," and then added, "It looks very good. I loved it." I asked her what she meant by "it's about time," and she said she had a confession. Then she told me that only half of the pills I had been taking were for our diet. The rest of the pills were hormones. Then she told me it was for the best and that she really wanted to help. She said that she had looked into it and found that it wouldn't be a problem. I wondered how this wouldn't cause trouble. Jan started to talk about how she wanted to change Lacey's looks, saying that it would help her voice a lot. She said that in just a few months, you could see how much everything changed for the better. Then she says, "Haven't you noticed that you don't have to shave as often?" Well, I said, "Yes, I like all the changes, but I can't be Lacey every single day." Then she told me I didn't have to. She said that all of our exercise made my muscles look bigger when I wore a regular shirt, and she didn't think anyone would notice. After a minute of thinking about it, I was really happy with everything. What I really wanted to say was, "I love it. Let's do more." I couldn't help but be really excited. Jan really took charge. She put me in front of the bed and showed me what she had planned all along. Thanks for watching. The rest won't be viewable on YouTube, so check out Patreon if you want more.